And first of all, please arrive in the place where you are, or arrive in a comfortable but upright position, and feel into the space where you are right now. First of all, the space where you are actually sitting. Feel your body, feel how feel all your feet and your bum, all the places that touch the seat and the ground. Feel how you are held by the gravity, the power of gravity, how Earth is supporting you, holding you, attracting you. And then open your mind a little bit to feel into this virtual space that we're sharing. First of all, the three of us. In real time. And then also others that might listen to the recording later. And really allow yourself to be here now. And this is the beginning, is the preparation. So preparation always in this type of meditation is arriving in a good sitting position and arriving in this present moment and in this body, being aware of your body, being aware of your feelings, your thoughts, and letting them be. Being aware of them, accepting them, letting them go, and returning to the next moment. Each moment, try to be there, fresh and new, and accepting. And now for the mind training part. First we train in absolute bodhicitta, or the absolute mind. The mind that reaches for liberation from suffering. And first of all, the first step is to become aware that all appearances, everything we experience, are like experiences in a dream. They depend on causes and conditions. It depends very much on our state of mind, how we experience things, how we see things. So just like when we wake up in the morning and remember our dream, it's easier to accept it and let it go when we know it's just a dream. And now you allow yourself to sink even more deeply by examining your mind, examining your consciousness, and come to see that it is unborn, that there is no place where thoughts come from, and there's no place where they go to. And that mind is just a very fluid, very ungraspable phenomenon. So rather than being being overwhelmed by the content, by the thoughts and the feelings, or fascinated by them, allow yourself to or try to see who or what it is that is thinking, that is feeling, that is experiencing. This is a very deep search into the nature of the mind, the origin of the mind. And as long as you're searching and don't find anything, you're doing fine. That's the practice. In case you have a thought, suddenly you have a thought, now I have it, now I know. Now I know what the nature of the mind is. Then the next slogan is to let go of that immediately. Because in that moment it was true. You found something that was very true and very real for you. Okay, we're just getting, hi Eli. We just have another participant. Eli, we already started, very welcome. So you're very welcome to arrive, as we already have, in this present moment, in this present space, both the place where you actually are and this virtual space. And to see all experiences or phenomena as dreams, and to let yourself sink to the nature of your mind, the ground of being. Or searching for it, opening yourself, letting yourself sink into that. And keep doing this moment by moment. Rest in your unborn nature. And at the same time, there will still be thoughts, there will be feelings. And that's fine. Just be aware of them as they appear, accept them, and let them go. Don't get fascinated by them, don't get stuck, hung up with them. Just let them come, let them go. If there's no thoughts, that's also fine. If there's thoughts, that's also fine. But keep returning to the place, the basis from which everything appears, the ground of being. And from this basis, We can now start with the actual practice of Tonglen, or taking and sending, the relative bodhicitta, the actual practice of enlightened mind. And we do that by becoming aware of suffering, either our own, maybe at the moment there is some very unpleasant feeling or thought, or some experience you had recently, today, or having at the moment. Or maybe a person or a being comes to mind that at this moment is suffering immensely. And maybe there's a strong wish inside of you that they could be free of that suffering. Maybe there's even a feeling of helplessness, that you wish them to be free of suffering, but you can't do anything about it right now to stop it, to ease it. So this is now a way that you can practice compassion very actively. And as long as you come from this place of peace and resting and dreamlike awareness, and what you do now is that you imagine that with your next in-breath, that the suffering, either your own or of that other being, enters you. You take it in with your in-breath, like a black or dark smoke or liquid. But knowing it's dreamlike, knowing it's just an imagination, and it cannot truly harm you. It cannot harm your essence. But you really feel that you're taking it away from that person that is suffering from it. And with your next out breath, you imagine that all the peace, all the happiness, good feelings and good states of mind that you have inside of you right now are leaving your body with your out breath and reaching that person or that group of people you're thinking of. And that it really reaches them, that they really are soothed, that they really receive this happiness, this peace of mind, this consolation and ease. And with your next in-breath again, you take all remaining, or another little piece of the remaining suffering. And with your out breath, you send out all the goodness that is inside of you. It's very, very simple practice. And very, very effective. And keep doing this, and maybe really imagine that the person you were thinking of is relieved, that they're feeling that they're less overwhelmed by the pain, that they're feeling ease of mind and body, and that they're ready to receive the compassion, the love, the clarity that you feel, the peace that you're sending them with your out breath. And if ever it happens that you feel overwhelmed, that you feel there's too much darkness that it's choking you. This often happens when you're new to this practice. Then just take that in, take your own suffering, take your own unpleasant feelings and allow them to be, and rest assured that they cannot truly harm you. They're like appearances in a dream. So give up the resistance, give up trying to fight them, and just let them in. And with the next out breath, also send yourself love, clarity, peace, gratitude, light. Until you feel yourself that you're again resting in peace, in a peaceful, calm state. Or maybe also in a state where you're feeling the suffering. Really allow yourself to be touched by it, to be moved by it, to really feel compassion. In German, the word is Mitgefühl. You really feel with the suffering person. You really allow it to enter your heart, and even in some ways break your heart. But you don't get stuck on it. You hold it lightly. Let it be deep but soft, like water. And now I would invite you to open up more and widen the scope. Think of more people or more beings. See how much you can take, but maybe, yeah, I think in this group at this moment I feel ready to at least try very softly, very carefully to become aware of this world at this present moment in time, with the corona crisis having all sorts of effects. Many people sick or maybe dying, as always, but maybe more so. Many people very afraid to become sick or their loved ones becoming sick. In my country, in your countries, but all over the world. And also many people being affected economically, financially. They can't work, they can't earn a living, which gives rise to a lot of pain, a lot of fear. And breathe that in. As much as you can, softly, gently. And with each out breath, breathe out light, love, a feeling of belonging together. This feeling that nothing can truly harm me. Even if this body dies, the nature of my mind is not born and does not die. And keep breathing in other aspects of suffering, whatever you become aware of, or whatever touches you most deeply. Maybe it's more the fear aspect, maybe it's more the physical pain and death aspect, maybe it's more the financial crisis aspect. But with each out breath, also share maybe the positive things you become aware of in this world. All the many people who are now sharing their methods, sharing their love, sharing their fearlessness. How there's always also positive effects. And many people say they actually enjoy being at home and not having so many worries, not traveling so much, not having to go to work, being more with their families or more with themselves. So if any of those thoughts and feelings are present inside you, are strong inside you, really feel or imagine that this goes out with each out breath and reaches others that are suffering more than we are. And feel how the four of us doing this exercise right now, and maybe others listening to the recording later on, joining us, and the many, many others that are reaching out in love and that are nurturing this feeling of being one, belonging together, not separate. And imagine that this really has an effect, that there's less and less darkness, that the dark feelings, the fear and the stuckness becomes more and more light and transparent, and that the light and the love is getting stronger and stronger, radiating from each of us and joining all the other sources of light. And with that, I would invite you to become again aware of your physical body, while maybe holding this feeling of non-separateness, that you are in some sense, you are a separate individual, but in another sense you are not. And then gradually, in your own time, return to the place where you're sitting and also this virtual space. Maybe Stina, you'd like to, when you're ready, turn your camera back on. You don't have to. Yeah, there you are. Yeah, the way this goes is I just want to give an impulse, and we're not going to join in a conversation, but I want to give you every week, give you another impulse, one of the slogans, one of the 59 slogans from the mind training text. Last week we had be grateful to everyone, which is one of my favorite. And this time I already did it in the German class. I chose I let myself, I'd opened the book actually, and it came up, one of my favorite ones, which is place all blame into one. And that's a big topic for anybody with a Christian background. Blame, guilt, you know, mea culpa. And it's also one of the biggest obstacles with people reading this, becoming familiar with this exercise. First learning or learning about karma. Or I'm using the original commentary by Lojong Control, the first, and also Chogyam Trungpa's book, Mind Training, which I can highly recommend. And also, usually for beginners, I recommend Pema Chodron's book, Begin Where You Are, or Start Where You Are. I think I only have it in German, but that's a good. She's a student of Chogyam Trungpa, so it's a little bit more softened at the edges to lead into it. Yeah. So putting all blame into one. Who's to blame for all the suffering that I experience? Yeah. Normally we walk around blaming all sorts of people and conditions and fighting against the government and fighting against death and fighting unsuccessfully trying to fight suffering and blaming outside conditions. So it's like fighting with windmills. So the Buddhist way is to turn inside and to look for the source of all suffering, and which is basically the clinging to a separate self and the ensuing mind poisons, the ignorance, feeling separate and wanting to get all good things for me and not for others, and wanting to push away or somehow not see any negative things, and by that's like trying to undo a knot and pulling on it, and by fighting suffering, being averse to suffering, we suffer more and more. So that's the basic, in a nutshell, the basic Buddhist understanding. So really, what's to blame for any suffering I experience, and now or in the past or in the future, is this misunderstanding, this clinging to a separate self, and this fighting for it, and taking that to be something that solidly really exists and cannot be changed. And very often when people hear this for the first time, they think, oh, it must be my fault. So any suffering is my fault. They misunderstand the slogan. And they even get very, very angry about it. They then say, oh, this is a very bad book because I feel so guilty. And now I'm also riddled with guilt on top of all the suffering I have. And, you know, I mean, you get this in the New Age, you get this attitude, like if you have cancer, then you've done something wrong. There's something wrong in your mind. You just have to have a positive outlook, positive state of mind, and then you won't be sick, you won't be suffering. So if you're suffering, it's your fault. So this is not meant here. This is not meant here, but the thing is so it's very important to get that difference. That really what is to blame? Actually, the concept of blame and guilt is really pretty useless. You know, like when you have a problem in your family or in your team with your co-workers, the least interesting thing is who's to blame, whose fault is it? The really question that we should ask each other and ourselves is, okay, how can we put this right? No matter who did it, and you know, knowingly or unknowingly, let's put it right together. So it's a little bit like that, that you think, okay, it doesn't matter how I got into this mess, but how can I return to a state of peace, to a state where I can be with whatever is wrong with the world. I mean, there's plenty of things that are wrong with the world. I'm not denying that. And I'm not trying to meditate it away. But I meditate in order to be able to take it, to see it, to accept it, and take it in. And then I might be, in some cases, be in a better position to actually physically do something about it. But even in many, many cases, when we're caring for somebody or counseling somebody who's suffering intensely, then a lot of it, a lot of ease can already be given just by accepting it. Or like if we're with somebody who's dying, it helps so much when we ourselves are peaceful and explaining to the person, you are actually dying now, but it's not, it's natural. It's something that happens to all of us at some point. And very often, like old people, they know that. Very often the dying person knows this. But often the relatives or the care workers or whoever is in their surroundings, they don't know it, they don't accept it. And they say, oh, please don't die, please don't die. I can't be without you, adding to their suffering. So if we are in a peaceful state, accepting whatever suffering there is right now, and get used to that, then there's much more chance that we can take it without breaking, and that we can also give ease and comfort to those around us. And then actually do practical things as a next step.